What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So I just saw this breaking news. Wanted to share this with you guys. So Donald Trump, and by extension the Republican Party, have been dealt a massive blow by the American electorate this midterms. It is now official. Democrats retain control of the United States Senate. Now, why is this so devastating? I mean, well, when you look at the climate, Joe Biden with terrible poll numbers, even worse poll numbers at this stage of his presidency than Trump had 4 years ago. And if you recall, 2018 was a blue wave election year for Democrats. So you would have thought, logically, the same would have occurred for Republicans, but it did not. Rising inflation, rising gas prices, rising misery index, our support for a war that is not popular in the United States, where we're funneling billions and billions of dollars to a foreign government. A lot of people today are not in a generous mood. You know, a lot of dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party amongst people who are traditional voters. All right? In this environment, you would have thought, and plus, you know, it was considered earlier in the campaign that the enthusiasm gap between the Democrats and Republicans was in Republicans' favor. It was thought that, man, you know, Democrats might lose 30, 40 seats in the House and 5 or 6 Senate seats. It was going to be a landslide. That didn't occur. As of this morning, Democrats had 48 Senate seats, Republicans 49. Well, earlier today, in the Arizona Senate race, it was called for Mark Kelly, the incumbent, with 52% of the vote, versus Blake Masters, his opponent, Republican opponent, with 46%. That's what 88% of the precincts reporting. There's no way that Blake Masters is going to make up that 130,000 vote deficit. So that tied it at 49. What was not as certain was the Nevada Senate election between, I couldn't recall her name at the time when I was doing a video about Trump earlier today, Catherine Cortez Masto, who's a Democrat, going up against Adam Laxalt. Now, if Laxalt sounds familiar, his grandfather, I believe, served as governor of Nevada in the past, and there's various Laxalts that have held elective office in the state. And as recently as this morning, Laxalt had a lead. But that lead had dwindled from like 20,000 or something a couple of days ago to only 800 something votes. And the votes that are outstanding were deemed to be in predominantly Democratic areas. So the feeling was that Laxalt's lead probably would be evaporated. That was the case. Masto now has a 5,000 vote lead with 97% of precincts reporting, and the votes that are outstanding are in heavily Democratic areas. So it has been called, that race has been called for Catherine Cortez Masto. That gives the Democrats 50 seats, plus with Kamala Harris, being the president of the Senate and a Democrat, and her role as vice president. She's the president of the Senate in case there's a tie-breaking vote. Therefore, by default, they don't even need Georgia, the Democrats. They don't even need Georgia. But, as we all know, Warnock technically won the Senate race in Georgia, but by their laws, you have to get 50% of the votes. So it's going to be a runoff on December 6th. So, being that there's only going to be the top two candidates, Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker, if Warnock can get 50% of the vote, which is very, very possible, that means that the Democrats will have a 51-49 advantage in the Senate and have outright control. This is devastating because this is before the Republicans. Because if they couldn't beat the Democrats in a midterm, which generally favors Republicans historically, what the fuck is going to happen on election day? When you really do get out younger people, when you really do get out black people and minorities and voters who tend to vote more Democratic. To me, this election shows that Trump candidates can clean up during the primaries when you're catering to your base. But once you get to the actual general election and you have to try to get other voters to come along, whether that's disaffected Democrats, independents, swing voters, it's not enough. They can't do it. And that's why Republicans keep coming up short, and they're being reduced to crying about election fraud, which is bullshit at this stage. Every election you lose it's fraud now. People gonna get tired of that shit. The voters are getting tired of that. And it looks like Kari Lake, who was leading in the polls, it looks like she's gonna lose to Katie Hobbs, a Democrat in Arizona. So, to me, man, I think there's going to be a shift in the GOP, considering that Trump underperformed as far as endorsed candidates that he backed. A lot of them failed miserably. You see Fox News actually starting to criticize Trump and his leadership. And you see Ron DeSantis come out with a massive landslide victory in Florida. I think you're going to start seeing a shift of many Republicans starting to look to Florida. And Florida's going to be a very important state in the next election with 30 electoral votes. They're going to look to possibly Ron DeSantis being the next leader. And by the way, I'm not a Ron DeSantis fan at all, period. But I'm just talking from a political perspective. Ron DeSantis is still young, but 43, 44. He's the future Republican Party. He's everything. He has all of Trump's positive, you want to use that term, he has all of Trump's positive attributes politically and none of his flaws. As a matter of fact, he'd be a lot more dangerous than Trump because he's a lot more credible. He's a lot more what do I want to say? He's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. He comes across as more stable, but he's a lot more dangerous. And but anyway, Trump is really hurting right now. Tell me what you guys think.